Howdy folks, sorry it took so long to make this video, but finally it's done. My Balatro by the numbers, full completionist plus presentation, it starts now. So, let's get started. Over the course of my Balatro playthrough, I thought it'd be fun to keep track of random stats that the game doesn't. And luckily for me, Balatro lends itself really well to that kind of thing. I feel like if I tried to do it with something like Hades or even Slay the Spire, it'd be much harder. But Balatro, with all its numbers and all its glory, kept it simple and kept it clean, so it really fit into Excel. I'm not making this just to glaze myself, though I did include some of that. I just wanted to mess around in Excel and see what kinds of patterns, if any, showed up during my 159 episode Completionist Plus journey. Also, disclaimer, I am not a statistician or a graphic designer, but I did do my best to translate the data into mostly legible formats. To start things off, in total, it took me 235 games and 142 hours to beat Balatro. This is without holding R and believing within my heart of hearts that every game is winnable. No matter how bad the start seemed, I stuck it out until I lost for real. And because of that, my average run length was 36 minutes and 15 seconds. Without challenges, it took 202 games to get my white through gold stake wins, with a win rate of around 60%. These were my losses by stake, with notable jumps in difficulty for me being green stake, the first time scores start scaling more quickly, blue stake, when you lose a discard, and orange stake, when perishable jokers start showing up. Getting even deeper, these are my losses in each stake sorted by deck. I thought it was pretty silly that the first 3 stakes were dominated by losses from one deck each. Also, notably, orange stake was the difficulty with the most losses across the board for me, with 12 out of the 15 decks racking up at least one loss there. Simplifying that mess a little, I've sorted each deck by win percentage. Black deck was by far my worst deck, with 20 losses and a 29% win rate. That's because black deck sucks eggs. I learned that the -1 hand per round debuff is so much worse than it looks. One fewer hand means you have one less dollar to spend every round, which means less purchasing power early, which means less interest earned, which means less resources to win in one hand, which means even less money earned, and the problem just keeps compounding and compounding in a way that kills me more often than any other deck. The extra Joker slot just doesn't even matter if I'm losing before I can even fill up my 6 slots. My second worst deck, with a 42% win rate, was Ghost deck. I think it's a good enough deck, and on top of that I think it's a super fun deck, but the main reason I lost with it so much was a me problem for sure, because having the option to polychrome a Joker early made me greedy as hell to find a Joker that I planned to keep the entire run, costing me a lot of early anti-losses as I searched for a quote-unquote good enough Joker that never came. All the other decks were pretty balanced for me, with Yellow, Checkered, Erratic, and Zodiac decks being my best ones. Yellow deck was always nice because the early money it offers up has a positive compounding effect that's opposite of black deck. More money early just means more interest earned and more consistent finances for the rest of the game. I'm pretty sure a lot of Balatro content creators think yellow deck's the best one for that reason. Checkered deck is a classic because going for flushes is my favorite early game strategy, and having a flush plan early also makes it more likely to work into the late game as well. Erratic deck, to me, was like Checkered deck plus, because it offers up strategy from ante 1. Usually one suit is built up more than the others, and a few individual cards have like 7 or 8 copies, so having that kind of structure early made it very fun and a pretty effective deck for me. Finally, Zodiac deck was the only deck I had with a 100% win rate, which automatically makes me think it's the best one. I think the Overstock voucher is sleeper OP because having that extra opportunity to find jokers you need is invaluable in the early game. Starting with Tarot Merchant and Planet Merchant are just bonuses because they at least narrow down the voucher pool early, making it more likely for crazy ones like Telescope, Grabber, and Director's Cut to show up in future shops. Anyway, getting even more granular with it, these are my losses by ante. I chalk up my ante 1 and 2 losses to early game variance and greed mostly. I struggled most with antes 3, 4, and 5, usually due to either terrible early game economy management, or ante 5's purple stake accelerated score scaling, because 5 is when it really starts to ramp up. I think my losses drop off pretty hard after ante 5, because if you get through ante 5, you're usually strong enough or scaling fast enough to reach the end. Also, you've had over half the game to tailor your deck, build your strategy, and get a director's cut voucher to fight the variance. Ante-8 is the easiest because honestly, Ante-8 boss blinds aren't as bad as some of the Ante-1 through 7 boss blinds that just completely destroy specific runs. I'm talking to the plant, specifically here. And honestly, I think that's good game design because losing on Ante-8 feels terrible and always made me want to throw up. Next up, I'm going to quickly touch on how my challenge runs went. And they went pretty well. I won all but 4 on my first try, and I had a lot of fun with most of them. 15-minute city cost me a loss early, because I got too greedy with scaling the Eternal Ride the Bus and didn't end up getting a good enough hand to win. Blastoff and Golden Needle start you off with 2 and 1 hand per round respectively, which means early antes are just worse black decks. Even the starting jokers they hand you aren't really good early, so they're kinda useless when it comes to scoring enough to win. And finally, my 8 losses from Jokerless were because the challenge is the best one, and really required some outside-the-box thinking. I think it was my favorite challenge to play by far, and opened my mind to all the seals and all the planet cards that make or break runs early on. Finally, to finish off the scripted presentation portion of the video, I kept track of every legendary joker I ever found during my Balatro playthrough. I found a grand total of 12. I didn't get a single legendary joker until my 77th game, 57 hours into my playthrough. That 77th game was a challenge run, and I got 2 legendaries, which didn't count toward my card collection because challenge runs don't count discoveries or unlocks. So that was a bummer to experience my first 2 legendaries that way. But not too much later, my first legendary came 2 runs later, 59 hours in, during a blue stake green deck run. So at least I got an unlock shortly thereafter and didn't have to suffer for another 57 hours. In total, I found 1 Canio, 2 Tribolettes, 4 Yoriks, 2 Chicotes, and 2 Perkeos, and then 1 mystery legendary that I couldn't take because I had a full roster of Eternal Jokers during the non-perishable challenge. And that concludes the presentation portion, so now it's time to go into the stats that Balatro actually collects for you during your entire playthrough of the game. And for me, this is them. My best hand was an E15 hand. I never really went into endless mode because I'm not really an endless gamer when it comes to this game. I only ever went into endless mode mostly to get achievements. Or if I had, like, I don't know, a Baron run or something. But I'm not one to just keep trying to get the number higher and higher. I was just trying to win rounds. My most played hand being high card, not surprising at all. I feel like everybody's most played hand is going to be high card because in order to win, you have to play more of them, so I don't know, just makes sense to me. Most money, 445. That's kind of shocking. I figured I'd probably get more eventually, but I guess if you're not trying for the over $400 achievement, it's not going to happen just randomly. My best win streak was 14. I think that happened between white and red stake, maybe? That's when I was losing the least amount, so I think it makes the most sense. Maybe between red and black stake, I don't know. Progress 90%, but we're only 63% of the way through the Joker stickers, which is why I don't want to do Completionist plus. I feel like it's just checking things off a list. You're not even using half the Jokers you're trying to end the game with. Like with the commons, you're just getting a 4 Joker winning run and then tacking on a common that you don't have a gold sticker on. And saying, there we go, got it. And to me, it just doesn't sound that fun. So I'm not planning on doing Completionist plus. I apologize. Moving on to my most played Jokers. Ballot actually surprises me because Photograph is nowhere in sight here. Photo Chad being a classic combo, I feel like I didn't respect Photograph as early as I just cared about Hanging Chad. Thinking about it a little bit more, I'm pretty sure I just valued Hanging Chad because I loved lucky cards early in my playthrough. Having opportunities for getting money and score, and then giving myself more opportunities to hit those, I don't know, the gambling inside the gambling game just scratched that itch for me, I guess. Card Sharp being my second most played, not surprised. I pick it up every single time I see it. I think it's probably the best uncommon molting Joker. I mean, Hologram's also pretty good. Constellation, actually I think Constellation is better. It's just, I come across Card Sharp more often. All these make sense. Odd Todd, I still think is one of my favorite chip Jokers. It's just consistently strong. Fortune Teller, I'm surprised is this high on the list. But if I think about it a little bit more, I did overvalue it very early in the runs. Like the first 4 stakes. Once you get into orange and gold stake and stuff, I feel like it really falls off, and I didn't use it as often unless I came across it in like Ante 7 after already playing like 80 tarot cards. Hologram, pretty good, but it fell off once I started to tailor my decks more to specific strategies, adding cards into strategies, and then not hitting my big hands to win was too scary for me to pick it every time. And then Ride the Bus and Supernova. Those are just my favorite flat multing common jokers. I think my favorite uncommon one is Spare Trousers, but because it's uncommon, it doesn't show up as much, so it's not on this list as much. And baseball card's just good, because I love uncommon jokers, and it just combos really well with them. My consumables. Obviously, Hermit and Temperance, my favorite cards. And honestly, Emperor and Fool following closely behind, because I'm looking for Hermits and Temperances and copying them. An equal amount of Emperors and Fools is also very funny. Pluto, I think it goes with my highest number of hands played being a high card build. Jupiter, I mean, there's an entire deck dedicated to flushes, so that pumps it up a little bit already. And then I also just am addicted to using flushes early to win the early antes. 4 of a kind, because I'm addicted to building that instead of 5 of a kind. This is the Spare Trousers evidence. And then Saturn, because Saturn scales straights, and straights is the best scaling hand in the whole game. I think in orange, the orange and gold stakes, the later stakes, Saturn really pulled a lot of weight. I kept going for straight builds, just because I knew the planet cards could pull a lot of weight if I didn't get the right jokers. Yeah, these all make sense. I think it's notable to bring up that Death and Hanged Man were behind the econ ones because deck fixing is overpowered, and I fell in love with it. Magician shortly behind because my lucky card addiction showed itself pretty early. It's actually really funny. All 4 of my first starting ones are econ, then the 2 middle ones are deck fixing, then these next 2 gambling ones, I guess these next 3. I just love to gamble, I guess, inside my gambling game. And then Chariot, I'm shocked is further behind. But I guess I was going for flat mult jokers a lot during my runs, which means Chariot was multing before I even added a majority of my mult. So I don't know. It just didn't fit into most of my builds. One card that I'm really sad is not on this list that I really gained a lot of respect for at the end was Justice, creating glass cards. I feel like those saved a lot of my gold stake and orange stake runs, and I didn't put enough respect on the Justice cards early in my career. It deserves more. These planet cards, yeah, makes sense. High card up high, flushes shortly behind, 4 of a kind, Spare Trousers. Pairs, usually if I was going for pairs, it's like, why not just go for high cards? So I'm not surprised high card is just always higher than pairs. Straight shortly behind, and then a big fall off for other hands. I did like to do full house builds near the end there, so I think it caught up a lot. Spectral cards, I was kind of hoping Immolate would be at the top because of my Immolate addiction, but I honestly feel like I just got unlucky. I never really found Immolates as often as these other ones. Cryptid's good for the deck fixing. The seals, the holographics, these all go really well with my Hanging Chad addiction, so it tracks. And then the rest of these, I don't know. Hex, I feel like showing up on this list is impressive, but at the same time, there's a whole deck dedicated to Hex. I feel like I got most of my uses from playing Ghost deck. Otherwise, whenever you find one late in the game, if you don't have Eternals, there's just like no chance of using this. And then finally, the vouchers. Clearance sale being at the top. That tracks. I love Econ. Permanently gaining 1 hand per round. That tracks. I love Econ. hand size being up here, I started to respect that a lot more once I started getting into deck fixing. I think Grabber and Wasteful go hand in hand once you get to Blue Stake and you lose a discard on all your decks. You really gotta... Finding one of these just to make your deck into a pre-Blue Stake strength level. It's good. And then Telescope, one of my favorites. I mean, going for a planet card early and then sticking with it for the entirety of your run, it's good for consistency. Rerolls, love that for searching for jokers when I needed them. Director's Cut, I wish would have showed up more. If I could, I would aim for this every single time. Because that's what caused the most losses in all my runs, was coming across boss blinds that just screwed me over. And also my incessant greed, but that has nothing to do with this. Earning more money, Overstock, MVP. Wish it showed up more often. And Hieroglyph, I don't know. I like it. The -1 hand kind of stinks, but having a full anti-extra to scale your little flat malters or find the jokers you need to get you through the run, pretty good. And that's about it. That's Balatro, baby. I played on the default cards the entire time. If I had to choose which ones to pick, Cyberpunk 2077. I freaking love this game. Probably my favorite game of all time. For hearts, Divinity Original Sin 2 for sure. This was actually my favorite game before Cyberpunk. This game got a lot of collabs with a lot of my favorite games. Slay the Spire for this one, of course. I don't even have to look at the other ones. I'd say Vault Tech would be a close second, because Fallout's fun. But yeah, Slay the Spire for sure. And I've thought about playing this on YouTube too, even though I've already beaten it. But I think I'm just going to hold out for Slay the Spire 2. Expect that content whenever that game finally comes out. And then Diamonds, I don't know, maybe Civilization 7? I haven't bought 7 because I'm the kind of guy who sees a Civ release and says that game's not going to be good for 2 whole years until they get all the DLC and patches in that make it as good as the previous game. If this were Civ 6, I'd play that. And Civ 5 is pretty good too. I actually want to play this game, but I'm going to play it off stream because I hear it's really story-driven and, I don't know, I like to play story-driven games off stream. I'm actually playing Deltarune right now. That's why this video's been taking me so long. Mostly because there's screaming kids outside the window, and also my free time is used up playing Deltarune. I guess Stardew Valley would be the one I choose here. I played a lot of this. Mr. Spreadsheet loves management game. Who'd have thunk? And that's it. Like I said, not going for completionist plus. If the developer, Local Thunk, that's the developer of this game, right? If he patches the game and adds new jokers or new difficulty settings or gold stake or new challenges, I hear they're coming this summer sometime. That's the rumor, at least. I will return. But otherwise, I'm going to try to find another roguelike to start uploading. I'm having a lot of fun with Darkest Dungeon. And I think I might add on Blueprints to that soon, but I haven't decided yet. Anyway, that's that. I had a lot of fun with Balatro. It was great. And keeping track with my spreadsheet was pretty satisfying and fun. I learned a lot about Excel and what it can do. I should really get a job with Excel, honestly. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe. I don't plan on stopping uploading. It just depends on if you like the game I'm playing, but any support's welcome. Anyway, that's all, so bye-bye.